looking forward to sharing a lot of pictures that I took at the Indy Junction 22 in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago. I got to about half of the layout tours. There's no way you can see them all. It was a very good conference. This is the conference booklet, and it's 84 pages. Here's a page of, whoop, how do we do this? Page of clinics. And every day there were multiple clinics from morning till late at night, and other events going on all over the place. Every afternoon there were layout tours. And for the layout tours, something new this year, they had QR codes on the page, and you take a picture of that with your phone, and give you the map of where you wanted to go for that layout. So the committee that put all this together was very, very thorough, and a very enjoyable convention for 500 plus NMRA members. So when I took pictures of layouts, I was concentrating for myself on various small industrial scenes, because I have gotten rid of my layout and I am building 2 Fremo modules. And so in particular, small industries or industries that fit on shelf layouts and whatnot were things I was interested in. So I took a lot of pictures of that, and I'm not sharing all those, but that's what I was concentrating on because of my own desire to get some various angles for how I might arrange buildings and whatnot to have the right view blocks and photo backdrops and all that on Fremo modules, which are viewed from 2 sides, so that you don't have a backdrop on Fremo modules. So with that little introduction, am I ready to share, Greg, or do you have to do anything there?
Nope, you should be ready.
Okay, here we go. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Good. Okay, so a couple more comments on my background. I've been a model railroader since the 50s, grew up in Milwaukee, home of model railroader and all that up there. Most of my life I've lived within a few blocks of either the Milwaukee Road or the Northwestern or the North Shore. And here in Elkhart, Elkhart, Indiana. I'm in across the river, about a half-mile north of the Grand Elk Railroad that runs east out of Elkhart. If you're looking at the Elkhart webcam and looking east, you can see the track that peels off the main line and heads east to the Elkhart and Western, and then to the Grand Elk that goes up to Battle Creek and so on. Been a member of the NMRA for a while, been secretary of our now called chief clerk of the Michiana division for, I don't know, 10 years or so, back since before I was 70 anyway. So here we go. Yep, come on. Okay, a couple shots before the layout tours here. The T-Track guys set up in the lobby of the Marriott Hotel in Indy, and that seems to be something that can catch some young folks that are interested in modeling, because they can make individual little modules and combine in a setup at some point. So the T-Track group had quite a few modules there, as you can see, and we'll click along with, well, that's the end of that. So, and then the next thing to get set up was the contest room, and one of the first things to arrive was Rod Thompson's award-winning module, and Rod's on here, and he accompanied me to some of the layout tours. So we'll give him some exposure here with his wonderful module that won the best diorama and won the popular vote. So excellent work by Rod. And all the buildings are scratch built, right, Rod?
Almost 100% scratch built. The elevator is a kit bash and the water tower is a kit bash.
Okay. So layout tours, went to several each day. And the first one we're showing you here is the Paul Lutz's Conrail Marion branch. And is anybody on a small device that can't read the material on the left there? If they are, I'll read it. Otherwise, I'll just wait a couple minutes while everybody reads it and we'll press forward. Is anybody on a handheld or anything like that? No comments? Okay.
Doesn't look like it. I think you're good.
Okay.
I just upgraded to a 43-inch screen this afternoon, so I'm enjoying you in full glory.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is Paul Lutz, and we'll go down and look at his triple deck layout, double deck operations, and then staging underneath. The right picture you can see from his work area. You can to his other room. It's a very good size layout. And I was impressed with the backdrops a lot of these folks have, whether they're photographic or painted, and the lighting schemes that they had for both levels, and a lot of double level layouts that we saw. And there is Rod on the left checking it out. It has a huge helix that is not only used for getting between levels, but for being a shortcut in the back, so he can have continuous running in what in normal operation is just a point-to-point layout. And so on the very far right of the picture of his dispatch area there, you can see the edge of the helix, which is the left edge of the one shown in the right picture. So moving along, Bob Talbot's layout. I know there are people on here that like helixes, so I always got a picture of those. Give you a minute to read the information there.
Mhm.
A lot of railroads have a signature scene near where you come in that's a bridge over a river, and here's another one. But very well done. On the far left over here is the bridge. So you can see where that fits relative to the right picture. Same bridge on the right. Happened to catch a train coming along. most people were operating their trains at very realistic scale speeds. And it might take many minutes to get to wherever you had a spot that might be a good photograph. And wanting to see lots of layouts, I took most of my pictures without waiting for a train to come along, just to get the scenery and structures and whatnot. Otherwise, I would have gotten to half as many layouts. On the left, you can see his paper bag construction he's using for the form to form his scenery, where he's still under construction over here. And here we see several industries that are spots to do your operations to and from. Okay, here's Bob Sharp's GM&O layout. Bob's the one back here on the right. A couple in the middle there is, I think, is from the Division 6 NCR. They come to some of our Michiana Division conferences. Don't see many control panels with Atlas switch controllers on them, but here's one. And then up on the hill, he decided he wanted a German village, and there it is. In the lower left, that is a 1947, I believe, train register
Oh,
from the GM&O, the actual thing, and open to the pages that he uses for reference to operate his layout. And on the right, his wife has her own N-scale layout in the same basement area as Bob's layout, or Robert's layout, excuse me. Okay, Bob Case's B&O. I first saw that one back when the National was in Indy in 2016, and thought it was so good, I figured I better go back there again. And that's Bob on the right. And the station back here, that's a model of the Cumberland, Maryland station. And up on the right, same thing from the other end. And some visitor moved his station platform onto the track a little bit. Off in the distance in the left picture is the station again. Lower center, notice the detailed interior, lighted interior, detailed interior of the restaurant there. I saw many very well detailed interiors on layouts, and the pictures I'm showing you are only a small fraction of what I took, or we'd be here all night. Lower left and lower right are the cement plant. You'll see those modeled very often. And then upper center, you see Bob's CTC panel setup. lower left, the small industrial switcher, that's the scheme I'm using on my Fremo modules to have an industrial complex with captive 44-ton and 70-ton GE switchers. So I like to see what other people are doing with those also. Couple of town scenes. Cooling tower. Freight station in the background. Detailed street scene. Moving on to Jack Simpson's layout. Lots and lots of industries on here that I enjoy taking pictures of. Nice weathering on his buildings. And then on to Tom Kane. See the full signal system.
Also see a fireplace, so that must not have been originally intended to be a train room.
Oh. Yeah,
Career lounge is ready for Santa Claus.
that is true. Very observant.
I see a fellow wearing a mask. Were there a lot of participants wearing masks or just a few?
Just a few, and at some layouts, they required masks to come into the house because they had people with great susceptibility or something like that.
Okay. Is that a refinery there on the left side?
Appears to be something like that.
Yeah, I see the tanks and the racks and then the real tall pipes. That's
Right.
maybe even a yellow light on top of the one. So,
I think that might even be a methane blow-off flame up there. Later on, you'll see another layout with a huge refinery on it.
Doug, have you been to Joliet?
I've driven through there a few times, got stuck in a traffic jam once.
Yeah, there's a lot of refinery over there.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure. You bet.
See, I'm more accustomed to these scenes with the little gas station office and grain elevator.
Mhm. Okay, Brad Woder.
These guys all have put nice thought into their lighting.
Yes, many of these had very excellent lighting. Now, if you look right here by Brad's shoulder, you'll see a pad on the edge of the upper deck. That's a duck under going into the crew lounge behind him, which you'll see in the next slide. And then right where he's standing, there's a swing out bridge so that you can get in there without having to duck under the lower level. And we'll see that, I think, in the next picture. Yes, there it is. So here's the duck under bumper we were seeing shoulder before. And then here's the swing out bridge that is open to let you into the crew lounge. Huge screen on the far wall with a video projector above the couch on this end, so they can watch TV or movies or YouTube or whatever in there. His dispatching location in the upper right. And then in the lower right, he said he found a deal on all these keyboard trays that slide under desks. They're all on desk slides, so you just push it in and it disappears. But you can set your car cards on there when you're operating, or your throttle or whatever. And then when you're walking on to the next place, you just shove it in and gives you plenty of clearance in the aisle. I think he said he found 25 or 30 of those as a lot sale in some surplus place somewhere, and he grabbed them all. Okay, the upper right picture, and way in the upper right up here, you'll see a refinery. It's bigger than the one we saw in the other layout. And then in the lower center picture, we're down low looking up under the upper deck. So you can see the string of LEDs that he's got up here to light the area below. He's got the same thing on the upper deck behind the valence. So he's got very even lighting. And as I recall, it's adjustable in color, so you can get night effects and all that kind of stuff too. And there's a better shot of the refinery in the upper right. Hey, Eric Peterson. Full scale. So it's a basement layout, but he's got it built in sections so that he can move when he needs to.
Smart man.
Yep. So in the left picture, you see one of his control boards, and they're on hinges. So he can swing them around, and they're horizontal to work on them. And then when he pulls a pin and shows them back under, they rotate under and completely disappear under the layout. Only a small portion of the layout is scenic at this point. But in O scale, you can get lots of detail. And look at the detail in the weathering job on that engine.
Mhm.
I don't remember if it said on the introductory slide or not, if his track height is probably about 52 or 53 inches off the ground on the main line. And here's Dan Heinel. He is currently superintendent of the Central Indiana Division, CID, and just got MMR 700. So he's a master model railroader. If I had tried to take pictures of every industry he had on the line, I'd probably still be there. You know, it's 130 customers with 625 car spots. Think of the operating sessions he must have.
Yeah.
So here we go. Come down the stairway here and turn left, and from, whoops. From right over here, looking northwest is where the left picture is looking. And this is just one of the two rooms. You can't even guess that all the stuff in the lower half of this diagram exists when you're standing over at the entrance. So he uses buildings and changes in elevation as view blocks between sides of his layout, so you can have lots of industry and not be distracted by what's on the other side of the peninsula, but still be able to talk to other people across the way without having sky backdrop going to the ceiling, which is an interesting approach. And like many of these excellent modelers, they have interiors and buildings, and here he's got part of the roof off to show off what's going on inside.
And he's lighting that all with just those center bulbs hanging down?
Yes,
I see some strip fixtures there by the doors, but
yeah, there were enough. It was reasonably even enough to get good pictures. So the picture in the lower left and the picture in the upper right, I'm standing in the same spot and just rotating to the right a little bit. So you can see the barge down here in the canal, and over here is a barge in the canal a little farther down, another barge. So this little hook right here is this right here.
Yeah.
And what did he say on the first slide? That's a 60-inch TV or something for the dispatch board. But everywhere you look, there's an industry. Oops. Stay there for a minute. Okay, moving on. Matt Hewitt's Shadowtown Ridge. And that last sentence where it's 2010 edition of Model Railroader, I think that meant to say Great Model Railroads, but I haven't gone back to check. So anyway, his layout is in an outbuilding that only looks slightly better than an abandoned switchman shanty. But he's got a garage door and a hot rod in there he's working on one side. And the other side, you go in through a little entryway, and the first thing you see is this scene on the left. And then there are a couple holes in the wall where you have tiny scenes in a helix that I didn't include in here because I wasn't going to show you so many pictures. And then you move on into the next room, and on the left is the view you see as you go in the door. And on the right is looking back the other direction. So here is a water tower. Here's the same water tower up here, looking back the other way, so you can see where you are. So the right picture would be way off to the right of the left picture, looking back. The engine facility up here. And this is the same bridge from two different angles. The bottom of the bridge down here is maybe 18 or 20 inches off the floor. And then everything goes on up. This might be 40 inches here at the top of the bridge. And then look how the ceiling goes up toward the ceiling. He's got more trees than Jerry McCree has on his layout, I think.
28 inches. I'm not sure there's any of us can duck that low anymore.
I didn't stick it in here, but I went back on Sunday because he was open for 2 days, and took some other pictures from different angles. And I took a low picture looking, from the riverbed up toward the bridge, and it really looks kind of cool. I should have put that on here. Okay, these are two pictures of the same thing. Here you see the top of the food truck, top of the food truck. Take the top off of the building, fully detailed basement, water heater, furnace, all that kind of stuff, and an O-scale layout in HO. And he has many lighted buildings and, detail everywhere. That's why I went back the second time. I couldn't get everything pictures taken out of the first time. There's just so much to see and so little time if you want to get onto the next layout. So I am still working a fair amount of time in my old age. And so I ran out of time filling in slides for some of these. So I skipped ahead and we'll get to some that here's John Dick. Maybe at a future meeting I can fill in some of the ones we skipped here. John Dick, I think at our 2014 Michiana Division Conference, he came and talked about his beer line layout that he's building. That's a shelf layout. And so I've stayed in touch with him ever since I grew up in Milwaukee and knew the beer line well. So the layout starts on the left. The bridge kind of hides the fact that the tracks don't continue on. That's John's son, Jake, doing the switching there. So the layout goes from lower left to upper right here, turns right, goes past the window on just a little crossover, and then continues over here, turns the corner, comes this direction past the Schlitz elevator. Here's a warehouse you'll see a detail of in a couple more pictures. Shops on 3rd Street, you'll see more later. Then it turns the corner and heads back under the next window and then turns the corner again, and that's the end of it. This is right at the top of the stairway on his 2nd floor. So the refrigerator trucks are loading reefers or vice versa. And up here, there are various shops. Still a bustling area on 3rd Street in Milwaukee. But the tracks are gone. So there's the pallets being loaded in reefers left aside off the building so we can see what's going on. And then this little scene is right by the window that we saw in the background in the first and second picture. Another one I didn't have time to load in pictures of, another one. And another one. And another one. This is a neat layout with geared locomotives like crazy, and I like geared locomotives, so sorry I didn't get those done in time tonight. I was loading pictures for Richard Seymour right up till the time we logged on here. So here's Richard Seymour's layout. I jumped ahead to do this one because even though his layout's down in the Central Indiana Division, he has been to Michiana Division conferences. And so good to see him again. So this is the Rat Hole Division, named for the fact that they eliminated this tunnel and did this cut here, got rid of the rat hole. Currently Norfolk Southern. So here's the rat hole again. And a little camper up on the hillside. And he does a nice job of weathering his roads too. I don't know if I got another one with that in there or not. But I did notice that in several places. There's the whole layout from with a wide angle lens from the entrance to the room, and over on the right is his work area, desk, computer, and whatnot. And he faces this direction when he's at the desk. So that's the railroad room and his office. Two shots of the same scene from different angles. And a container loading area. And that's all we have for tonight. So you have seen maybe 130 or 140 pictures. I took well over 700. So filter them down for this. But Scott Kremer and his team did a great job of that conference. Everybody was raving about how good it was. There was a train show on Saturday and Sunday. There were contest rooms. There were display rooms. There were sales rooms. There were modular layouts set up all over the place. And NHOS and O and ON30. And I got out of there only. Any questions?
Neil, this is Dave Nelson. Were these bus tours to these layouts? I don't see the aisles being crowded like all the layout tours I've ever been to.
Oh, no, individual tours, just go when you want. Well, go, certain layouts were open from noon to 6 or 1 to 6, some from 2 to 6, so on and so forth. But there were so many layouts and so many other things to do. I would say less than half the people went on any layout tours, and if they did, they might only have done it on one day. And I was probably an unusual one doing it 5 days. And but that was one of the missions I wanted to accomplish down there. And again, I was taking pictures when there was a gap in the traffic in the view of that part of the layout, not waiting for some engine coming along where 3 other guys with cameras are following it or something like that. So there were more people at the layouts than you would gather by looking at the pictures. And a couple of layouts, well, one layout that I didn't have the pictures in yet was upstairs, and they actually handed you a numbered ticket when you went up. And when the tickets were gone, nobody else could go up until somebody came down and turned in a ticket because there was only room for so many people upstairs, for example. Any other questions?
Nicely done, Neil.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. That was great.
A very enjoyable conference and
Yeah. Yeah, it was. All right. Well, we've got 15 minutes. Ron, do you want to do your thing that you've been holding
Sure.
on to?
Sure. Let's see, I gotta. Not sure play. Yeah, it does. Okay, I'm real glad that Doug is on here because, you know, he's very familiar with the Iowa thing. But we had some conversations about feed mills and elevators, and I thought, well, maybe it'd be good if we talked a little bit more about it. So I went to the encyclopedia and got their definition. Feed mill means that a source of equipment that produces food, including premix and supplements and concentrates for animals, not for humans consumption. And they did it from grain and byproducts of alfalfa and other ingredients without cooking. But it is not, does not include wet or dry corn meals, soybean meals, flour mills, ethanol plants. So I added my little business to the bottom, and I said I would add that producing feed is the primary business and not storage of grain for resale.
That would be my understanding. Yeah.
So the first one I came up with was the one at Camp Douglas, Wisconsin. I think that probably without a doubt is a feed mill. They do have signs on there, which we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm sure the interior has bins where they hold their grain, but they really don't want to have a lot of grain on stock. They don't want it to get bad or anything like that. So I think feed mills generally do not have big storage units. So the next one I brought up was this one. And I said, you know, what is this? Is this a feed mill or a grain storage unit? And I guess I don't know, but it could be both. But they certainly have great big bins, and I'm not sure what that barn like is. They do advertise that they are a feed mill, but then on the other hand, maybe they just sell feed that they buy from somebody else. Anybody have comments? I'd like to hear them when we go through there. I suspect a lot of you muted
I'm
out.
reading the signs, and Wayne Feeds is a very large producer of animal feed products here in the state of Iowa, as well as through the Midwest. And it says milling company on the side of the building, so that's probably their primary focus. But they do it does look like they're doing grain storage as well, unless they are doing some major feedlot supplies, because that's a lot of bin storage for just a typical feed mill in the Midwest.
And that was my opinion of it too, that this probably was a combine.
Yeah, and again, those are steel bins that are newer add-ons versus the old barn, which may have been the original feed mill building. Yeah.
So the next thing I said, if you sell feed, does that make you a feed mill? Well, I guess so, but if you don't mill it, you're probably not a feed mill.
They might have started out as a mill that was milling feed, and then later just got into selling prepackaged, because BP is another big name brand.
Yeah, those are prepackaged stuff. Obviously, this place is not the BP mill. But if you look at the
No.
older part of this, it could very well have been a grinding mill.
Yes, and particularly that silo to the left with the steel bands. That's a 50s, whereas the others down the way with the corrugated, those to the far right, may be newer bins. It's hard to say.
You can see he has a spout here for
Yep.
one-time loading cars. This
Yeah,
is probably concrete, don't you think?
that's what it looks like, poured concrete there. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's a neat structure, because you get the mixture of the different bins, corrugated iron, there's flat steel panels with the ribs, and then the poured concrete, and then you've got two wood structures. One which is basically a storage building, and the other looks like it probably was the original mill. And you've got the head house had been moved higher up to accommodate the taller bins.
This is also a different kind of bin over here.
Yep. And
I
it's
wish
all
I-
stretched along the tracks, because you got loading doors on that single story building. And then you got the spout coming out of the concrete silo, and a loading door there on what could be considered a grain elevator type structure. So at one time they were shipping in and out by rail.
But, you know, when they have a spout like this, they obviously were loading covered hoppers,
Yep,
whereas this area would be more loading boxcars.
correct. Yeah.
I
And then
wish
you
I
got,
knew, I don't know where they're at. I mean, I knew where the one was, but I'm afraid the rest of these,
Hmm.
somewhere in the Middle West. This is an interesting one from the standpoint that I'm not sure these Butler bins are part of this mill.
they may not be, because the grain legs are going the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
here's what he's talking about, the grain legs. And obviously they're not the best picture in the world, but boy, are those cars weathered. It has a nice checkerboard sign on it, so it obviously
yep,
sells that. Yeah.
Farina feed mix, Farina chow type. And then you do have a head house on that building.
Yeah.
And so here, this one also has got a head house plus separate grain augers.
So on this one, I asked the question, if it has a dust collector, is it a feed mill?
Yeah. Some elevators have put dust collectors in too, because grain dust is so explosive.
Yeah, that's true. I would guess though that a feed mill would probably be more apt to have them than grain
Yep.
elevators.
Yep. And I don't see a lot of grain storage there.
No, but I'm not sure this building has anything to do with this old wood building.
That looks almost like a fertilizer distributor.
That's kind of what I thought. I thought it might not even be an elevator. It has
Yeah.
storage of some kind, but
But a feed mill combined with a fertilizer distributor would really be serving the needs of local area farmers and ranchers.
right. I often wondered where this one was taken, and I never could find out because of the big brick elevator there is so unusual.
That's down in Kansas. I found that for you a while back.
Did you? Well, you're gonna have to
Yes.
remind me so that I can put a name on that. I'm
Okay.
sorry that I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's down in Kansas, and most of those structures are still standing from the Google overview, but the Bertrand Road is a very unusual road name, so that's,
Well, then it cannot be my picture. I have never, I've traveled Kansas, but I've never traveled Kansas looking for stuff like that. But
Hmm.
this is a very interesting chute coming out, which is not on the railroad, so they're obviously loading trucks out of here. And then you've got all
Yep.
kinds of concrete silos, which may be a different company, and a bunch of metal ones. It'd be nice to see a picture of the whole complex.
mhm.
Obviously, they also dealt in fertilizer.
Yeah,
I find these buildings that have these, they look like little added on structures to be very interesting.
yes, and that one is hanging out over the edge of the brick wall.
It is like
Yeah,
quite a little bit. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what this is.
it looks like it may be some sort of a chute for dropping down perhaps into a, dropping leavings into a wagon or something.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. Here's another one with the dust collector, but I think it's a mill instead of a grain elevator, even though it has all kinds of new conveyors. You see the old head house, but it may be just a very small little rural elevator.
Mhm. It's certainly got a lot of bins within that building with all those pipes coming down.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
this area here certainly must be nothing but bends. And then there would be two bends here because there's two chutes here,
Like, yeah,
and there's probably two on the other side. I would call that a feed mill. But again, it has the new, they've got rid of the old head house. It's still there, but everything
Yep.
is being lifted up above that.
yeah, the new grain leg is going higher for old corrugated iron starting to rust away.
Yeah.
Look at all the telegraph lines.
Yeah,
Yeah,
notice how many cross arms. There's 6 of them, but the bottom one has nothing on it, and there's only 2 circuits on the next one up. 2 circuits on the next one. That one has several circuits. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. There might be 8 on that. Looks like the others are that way. But
Mhm.
if you look at how many wires are up here, I suspect that a lot of the circuits are gone and just nothing but insulators on there.
Yep.
Again, this may be a different operation over here because of the way the chutes are. Again, it has a dust unit, and these are odd tanks. You kind of wonder if those are somehow different things, maybe different feeds.
I was going to say those are pretty typical for a feed operation where you get so many different feed mix, and you may be blending different feeds depending on what the buyer is wanting. So
Yeah, I would guess that's true. It wouldn't surprise me if it would be something in the South, but it's also, there's a whole bunch of it that was made out of brick.
yes,
Anything made out of brick is, that's a very expensive, even back in the day when everybody was making it out of brick. It still was.
well, if they'd had a lot of fires in their area.
Yeah. Another small feed mill. I'm not sure what this is, but it could be a dust collector.
Yep, does look like could be.
And they have a little canopy here for loading, so they're out of the weather.
Yep, and they're selling master brand feeds. They also got the word implement, so they might be selling some tractors or wagons or something on the side.
Which brings up the good question. Our little building the other day, several people said, well, we ought to get rid of the implements. I originally thought that, but the more I saw replies, the more I thought, that it could very well be an implement and feed mill.
Yeah,
I totally agree there needs to be some stuff done to it because of course it had no, far as I looked at it the other day when I was there yesterday, and it needs a building for their shop, which it does not have. Obviously it needs a way to unload machinery and stuff out of the box cars. So there's things that need to be done to it, but I think it's very feasible.
Yes. Now, is that a curved pipe right up there? About center right in the photo near the big red square?
This thing here,
Yeah, is that a pipe going into, is that some sort of a housing container there?
it sure looks like a pipe going into that.
Yeah,
At first, I would have said it might have been a water tank, but I don't think so with that kind of a pipe,
no, it's a
Looks like
collection
the
tank.
pipe for electrical wires.
possibly.
Well, but it's hiding the rest of the sign, and that's what I just,
I
yeah,
think- I think there's some legs under it, but maybe not.
yeah,
There's something right here.
yep. And you got all the wires coming down from the pole into that pipe is basically taking the wires into the building.
You know what I think those are? I think those are shadows of the wires.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a red tank. That's the other half of the sign, the far right. It's a symbol
Okay.
with a circle and some pointed arrows coming out of there.
All
with
right.
shadows across. That's not a tank at all.
Okay, because we have this here and this matches it on this side.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that curved gray pipe is a electric conduit is all it is.
Ah, yes. All the wires go in there, don't they?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
And also, could that stack be a dryer?
over here.
Yeah,
Well,
That's,
could be.
yeah. But you know, the lines going into that pipe, that's just a neat detail that we don't always see on structures. Is
Well,
you
the
get-
other thing is this is a cement block building with,
Yep.
look at the foundation under it, which is
rubble stone foundation, yeah.
Yeah.
So there might have been a wood structure there that got replaced with a cement block at some point.
Could be.
Yep,
Up in here is kind of an unusual detail too.
yep.
Like that has had some kind of construction there.
Well, that corrugated iron is just weathered more up there.
Yeah, possibly.
The window's looking pretty sad.
Yeah, somebody shot that one.
Yep.
Well, there must be a basement under it.
Yeah. And then look at the detail on the corners of that block building.
Over here.
Yes, makes you wonder what the face on the other side, around the corner looks like.
Both
Rod, that
corners,
would be something that you would put on a building, right, Rod? Being the architect?
both corners have that textured block look to them on the.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's just decorative.
It is. It's
It
it's
is.
neat, isn't it?
Just adds a decorative touch, but for a plain block building, that's not common. And the rubble stone foundation just adds to I gotta model this type of look.
This may be the last one. Yeah, I'm afraid it is. Anyway, that was and we're probably close enough to the time now.
I think that one of the feed mill in Kansas, I think that's in Manhattan, Kansas, but I can't remember for sure.
I'm gonna write
They have
that
a-
down right now.
Yep, they have a Bertrand Road there, so. Or Bertrand Street.
Sometimes get people watching these after we're done with them that write to me to tell us where some of these are. So if I get one of those, I'll let you know.
I do remember Doug telling me that, and I don't know why I didn't write it down on there.
You don't listen to me, Ron. You
No,
just
Doug,
don't listen to me.
I do listen to you, but I'm old and I miss things sometimes.
He likes it so well, he forgets so he can hear it again.
Well, on the slide there or the picture, it may actually be identified, and I never put it on the actual picture.
Right.
Okay,
I mean, I could be right and wrong.
David's changed his look.
Uh,
Yes. His familiar has joined.
Yeah. So,
And I noticed
Modeling
we've
the
got
chassis.
Jim Paulson in here from Phoenix tonight. Welcome, Jim.
well, I'm gonna lift up my camera a little bit so you can see the room I'm working in tonight.
Nice.
This is half the layout.
Looking good.
laying track at the far end to get the yard put in. Once I
Uh-huh.
get that in, then we can start operations again.
All right, getting close.
Yes, getting close.
All right, well, thanks, Neil. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you guys presenting today. And next week, we don't have anybody signed up yet, so if you're interested, let me know. And thanks everybody for turning out today. We'll see you next week.
Okay, Greg, I've got a new
Thanks.
project I'm working on for the NMRA convention this summer. If I get busy, I might have something, a preliminary draft to run through.
All right, that sounds good.
Yep. So I'll be in touch with you.
All right, very good.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks.